Now, I know you said you were interested in politics initially, when you were supporting your uncle.
Yes, he was an MP.
Health is hugely impacted by politics. Do you see yourself going in that direction?
Well, yes. When I was young, I thought that, I guess that was really one of the reasons that drew me towards politics. I once thought that I would like to be a serving politician, but I no longer think that. Not at all. But I really am happy to support other people who are running. And I have spent a lot of my volunteer time over the years encouraging women in particular to run. And in fact, my earliest kind of law mentors were women who were lawyers and who are also involved in politics and community activities. So they were a really great inspiration for me. So neither of them run. I'm thinking of Jane Pepino and Libby Burnham. They were both really big feminists, really supportive of so many causes that supported women. They were really great examples for me of people who could do all that. And I should say too, they were also great moms and really devoted to their families. So, really good inspirations for me. So they never ran though. They never ran for office. And so I think I'm following more in their footsteps than, other women who have run.
What do you like about politics?
I think it's about trying to make a difference, right? I love current events. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in politics theoretically, and you have to do it practically to make a difference. When I was in law school, I spent my summer jobs, both actually in my undergrad and in law school, working for a fellow named Larry Grossman. He was a politician from Toronto. He served in the 70s and 80s. And for most of the time I worked for him, he was the Minister of Health. And as I say, I just worked for him the summers and part-time during the school year. And then I would also, he went on to be Minister of Education and the Treasurer of Ontario. So I kind of followed him into all of those different offices. So it was a really great experience for me to see how policy is made, the consultation process, the deliberative process, to see how people who are passionate about an issue can bring those issues forward to politicians, and how with time and patience changes can be made. So I really like seeing that. I'm able to do that now. I'm able to continue that both as a hobby, but it's also part of my career too, because a lot of people come to us and say they want to do things differently in healthcare. And, the first thing we try and do is see whether they can do it differently within the existing laws. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they can, or sometimes they can tweak what they want to do so that they can do it in a way that's in compliance with laws. But if not, then they need to see if they can get a new regulation or change the law. And we have a government relations group at our firm, and there are lots of government relations firms out there, obviously, that are good at helping people present their case to government and getting changes made. So yes, it's still part of what I do, both as a hobby and as part of my practice.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, because there's so many innovators or people who want to make things better, but they're often limited by the law or the legislation. Mm-hmm.
They are. Like our laws many of our healthcare laws just were not developed in a time where we would have so much disruptive technology that can do things that only healthcare professionals could do before. Now we have AI that can we have remote technologies that can monitor patients from a distance, that can diagnose people with diseases from a distance. Our laws just weren't made for that. I think that we could have way better health outcomes for a lot of things if our laws could develop. But there are a lot of vested interests that people are trying to protect, as well as just competing public policy agendas. There's only so much the government can do at any time. There's only so much money that's available. But if the legislative agenda was bigger, if there was more money, I think that a lot of the new technologies could bring about much better healthcare than what we have. And to be fair, it's not just the politicians. There are vested interests, as I say, and I'm not saying that those are wrong, but our regulatory colleges, they have to act in the best interests of the patients. But as well, they are for sure also conscious of what changes will do to the healthcare professionals that they regulate. So, they're not necessarily the ones that are going to be driving change. They may be resisting some of this change. And as well, we have a lot of risk intolerance in our political system, in our hospitals and in government. And in part, that is because, they've been burned. They know what happens if they take a risk on something. They spend money on a solution. It doesn't go as planned. Media will be all over it. The Auditor General will be all over it. They will take flack for things that they tried and didn't work. I think actually as a society, we need to create a greater risk tolerance. It can't be an unlimited amount of risk, but I do think that it's fair and appropriate for government to say, we're gonna try this. It may work, it may not work, but we're gonna try it and we'll take the flack if it doesn't work. And that's actually what they've done with the Ontario health teams. I think we have to say now, we're going to take a risk that we'll get bad press, but that's the only way we're going to innovate is if we take some risk.
Sure.
And in part, it's because so much of our healthcare system is publicly funded and if not publicly owned, in actuality, the government wears it, as I say, so they treat it like they own it. Whereas in other countries, there's a lot more private healthcare. Private companies can take bigger risks and not worry about things turning out badly in the newspaper or on social media. They know it might affect their bottom line, it might affect investor confidence, but they won't be raked over the coals publicly the way our healthcare operators are here.
You've had a very successful career as a lawyer, and you're trained to think in a certain way, when you go to law school and you practice law. So how do you go about thinking and making your decisions as you went on in life, your career, etc.?
I guess if we're talking about big decisions, I'm careful about the decisions I make. I don't have a hard time making decisions. I try to think about, what's important to me. The most important thing I have probably is time, right? That is the thing that I have the least of. In making this decision, what does it mean that I'm going to have to do less of to do this? So, I often get invited to join boards. I'm on 3 boards. I turn down board opportunities all the time because I say to myself, if I take that on, what will I not be able to do? Or what will I do that I don't want to have to do? The other thing I think about when I'm given these board opportunities that if I'm not interested in them is, can I make a difference? Is there somebody else who could make a better contribution and who might be willing to? So, an example of that is firm management. I was on the management committee of our firm for a time. I realized that, again, doing that just meant that I spent my Sundays doing work that I would otherwise have done during the week. And it occurred to me that this was not the best use of my time. There were other people in our firm who could easily take on those roles. I had opportunities that would advance the firm and that I like doing a whole lot more. So having said that, it doesn't take me a long time to make decisions. I always try to, consult with other people where I think that they may be able to, provide input. If it's particularly if it's a difficult decision, pray. And the other thing is leave it overnight. Like try to always give at least 1 night or 2 nights before making decisions, because I find it's so incredible what your subconscious thinks about while you're sleeping or in the shower or walking that you don't necessarily think about when the opportunity is first presented.